Hi, today we are going to talk about one of the most famous and destructive war in modern history. The war that is arguably made the 20th century most famous war, World War II. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm the host, Ink, and the other host in the red shirt, Poom, and our friends here, another host in the blue stripe, Parm. And today we are very privileged to have a guest, the same guest as the last time, Dean. Thank you very much for coming.
Hey, hello, you guys didn't dump me. I'm so happy. I'll talk less.
Okay, why don't we get to the topics then? So let's first briefing about World War II. It's gonna be like similar to the last time, I guess, but like an adjustment.
All right. So since we are talking about World War II, I suppose we have to talk about naturally where we left off last time with the effects of Treaty of Versailles, and maybe we should talk about how one of the most important players in World War II, Hitler, rose to power following, the consequences of the Treaty of Versailles. Spam, have anything to say?
So we have talked about it last time, and part of the treaties were, especially in Germany, which led to a lot of changes within the Weimar Republic itself. And the most important one is obviously the Nazi and Hitler, Adolf Hitler.
So actually, in case some people don't know this, Hitler actually fought in World War One. He fought in the war and he got injured, and I think he was. I think he was still in the hospital when the war ended, right? I'm not sure about that. Yeah. Anyway, so he. Yeah.
I've heard he was injured twice. The first time
he got injured
artillery bullet, and the second time it was gas stuff, I think.
Yeah, so he fought and he got injured, and like many Germans. Okay, first of all, Hitler's not German. Hitler's Austrian. Like many people who shared the same sentiment, he despised the Treaty of Versailles, and he thought it's very unfair, and so he.
I think we should brief a little bit about like Treaty of Versailles as well. So basically, like the treaty, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the treaty kind of like blamed Germany for starting World War One, and obviously it's kind of like limits Germany to only have like 100,000 soldiers and cannot like have or possess weapons, and also like I think France kind of like pressure Germany as well. So this kind of like makes some contributed to some tensions in the country, I guess.
Yeah, so the treaty had pretty devastating impacts on the German economy, primarily post-war, and a lot of people were furious about it. And Hitler, after the war, Hitler joined a political party. Okay, this party became known as the Nazi Party, which is short for, I think, like National Socialist Workers Party, right? National Socialist.
Maybe right-wing socialist.
So that's the full name. So we just call it the Nazi Party nowadays. So maybe Bam wants to talk about some of the core ideologies of Nazism.
So the Nazi is quite, firstly, it's nationalistic, and it's kind of right-wing controversy. It's conservative.
Yeah. And so Palm said right wing just now. So if you guys aren't familiar with right and left-wing politics. In politics, sometimes we refer to different political leanings as the left and the right. So on the left side, we have socialists, we have communists, we have liberals and stuff like that. And on the right side, we have fascist, Nazis, and yeah. This can also actually be applied to, I think, like economics.
Capitalism.
Yeah. It can also be used in a different context for economics here. But here we're talking about Nazism as a political ideology.
I think there were like a lot of like ideologies like this, so like extreme left and right after World War I, I guess, because obviously I think people were kind of like desperate, I guess.
Yes, that would lead to another cause of World War II, which is the Great Depression. Many political parties with different ideologies were coming up to solve the crisis.
Yeah, especially in countries that suffered a great. So the reason that people were in the reason that extreme ideologies appeal to people was that many of these people were desperate for food, desperate for money. That's why things like Nazism and communism. That's why these kind of ideologies were more popular in countries that suffered economically, like Germany, for example. The German economy took a very bad hit, and so when the people are hungry, when the people lose faith in the democratic government because they think the government has failed to do something with the economy, then they start going for the extremes. Yeah. So that's why Hitler managed to win public support. But before we get to the part where he wins public support, so maybe we should talk about how he initially tried to stage a coup d'etat in 1923.
Be a revolution, right?
Sorry?
I think go back a little bit. Sorry.
Be a rebellion. Right?
Yeah. It's called the Beaou Putsch, 1923. Yeah. So basically, Hitler basically initially, right? Hitler and the Nazi Party wanted to take Germany by force. So he staged a coup d'etat, okay, and it did not work, and he got jailed. And so after he got released, he took a different approach. So he branded himself as a proper politician this time. He made the Nazi Party seem legitimate, and he went for the democratic way. Yeah. So he started to basically campaign to become Chancellor of Germany. Yeah.
So I guess he was trying to win people's support rather than trying to win them by force. I guess kind of like let them willingly support him in a way.
Yeah. So instead of using force and military power to take over, he appealed to public sentiments against communism, against the Treaty of Versailles and stuff like that. We should also talk about one of the most famous aspects of Nazism, which is anti-Semitism. Yeah.
Before the World War II starts, Hitler also had developed the country, like building infrastructures, right? And some car innovations.
Yeah. But I think let's talk about anti-Semitism first, because we're still in the 1920s. We haven't gotten to 1930s yet. Yeah. So anti-Semitism was not a new thing. It's not like Hitler introduced it. Anti-Semitism has been a thing in the Western world for a very long time, but in Germany, particularly after World War II, right? Hitler was not after World War I. Hitler wanted a scapegoat, to blame for I think he blamed the Jews as the reason that Germany lost the war. I think that's one of the things he blamed them for. Anyway, so people were already like many people were already anti-Semitic, and Hitler came along, right? And he exploited this. Yeah, he also exploited the fact that people were afraid of communism. For example, he made these people he made the communists and the Jews scapegoats, and he fervently attacked them in his like speeches in like Mein Kampf and stuff like that. And by brewing this sentiment of hate, he managed to get a strong support. Yeah, so he used hate speech to win people's approval, and that's
Also, did
quite
Hitler think that Jewish are the same reason for Germany's defeat in World War One? Because there are a lot of Jewish in Frankfurt, which is the financial center of Europe, and they didn't give support to Germany.
May potentially, but it's always going to be a debate about whether or not Hitler was like, to what extent was Hitler actually anti-Semitic? Was he being a politician and exploiting anti-Semitism, or was he like to what extent was he personally affected by some event that caused him to become like such a strong figure in anti-Semitism? Some people argue that he got. I think some people argue that like his girlfriend cheated on like a Jewish guy or something like that. I don't know. A lot of these stories are perhaps not necessarily factual. Yeah, but so we won't ever know like if Hitler was actually
There's
firm
also,
believer of anti-Semitism.
there's also a story that Hitler has a descendant of Jewish, but we should not talk a lot about that.
Yeah. Anyway, what can be proved? What can be proven? What is evident is that his policies were extremely anti-Semitic, and many of his policies were also pro-German, pro-Iron. So basically, he created this political idea. He created this idea that Germans were the superior ethnicity, like that they were the master race and stuff like that. And a very different concept that he introduced was called Lebensraum, or living space. So basically, his idea was to spread the German race. Yeah, and so that's one of the main reasons for World War II, actually. Get breathing space for Germans. So a lot of these ideas made the Nazi Party very, very popular amongst the people, and they gained more seats in parliament and stuff like that until 1933. I think 1933 was when he became chancellor, right? Now, interestingly enough, he didn't. Interestingly enough, I don't think he didn't get voted to become chancellor, right?
I think there was a guy that helped him.
Yeah. It's
In addition, for those who don't know, Dean is also a bit fluent in German because he used to
no,
study it.
I don't speak German at all. Ich spreche kein Wort Deutsch. Yeah, so von Papen. It's von Papen and Hindenburg. Yeah, so basically,
Dean has learned German though.
I have, but it's not like not to a degree that can be called fluent. Anyway, so Hindenburg was the German president back then, and in 1933 he basically invited Hitler to become chancellor. This is because Hindenburg and von Papen thought that since Hitler was so popular, right, having him as chancellor can help the government win more support from the public. But this was perhaps one of the worst decisions in history. Yeah, because immediately afterwards, after he became chancellor, the Reichstag, which was the German parliament building, I think, it went on fire. Yeah, so the Reichstag went on fire, and to this day it's still a debate whether the Germans actually no, not the Germans. To this day it's still a debate whether it's the Nazis who started the Reichstag fire. Why would they do that? They would do that so it would give Hitler an excuse to enact martial law, and to basically gain absolute power. Because back then, I think, because back then in Germany, that there was an article that would allow the chancellor to get not the chancellor. It's actually the president. Yeah. So basically, it's kind of like Matra 44. The non-Thai viewer, the Russian viewers watching this will be very confused. 60% Russian, Russian viewership. Anyway, yeah, it's Article 48, and it allowed the president to dissolve the parliament and enact martial law, basically, to rule in a state of emergency. So Hitler exploited this. So after the Reichstag fire, he convinced Hindenburg to use Article 48, and so by doing that, it gave Hitler basically almost absolute power. And then
okay, Dean, let's move on to what Nazi did during Hitler's rule.
You're not going to talk about how he
we will talk about kind of the development that Hitler did.
I'll just quickly finish this then. So yeah, so after the Reichstag fire, there's also the enabling act. So the enabling act was a move by Hitler to give him even more power. So the enabling act allowed Hitler to introduce laws without getting Hindenburg's approval, without getting the president's approval. Yeah, and then afterwards he banned political parties, and finally he created the Führer position. So after Hindenburg died, the Führer position was the Führer position was considered to not considered. The Führer position was introduced to merge the president position and the chancellor position together. Yeah. So he so he did I think he got the Germans to do a vote, I think, and apparently a lot of people voted for. So yeah, so Hitler became Führer in 1934, and that's basically when he became like absolute dictator. So what did Hitler do for Germany? Does Bam want to talk?
He built a lot of infrastructures, I guess. Maybe like Autobahn. And also the in car innovation, like Volkswagen.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't know, Volkswagen was actually planned by Hitler. It's a policy for encouraging, I think, each German household to like have the quota to own a car. I'm not sure about the details.
Yeah, there are a lot of
save 5 marks a week towards
German
owning
car
a cheap
brands
car.
like Audi, BMW, Porsche.
Yeah. Maybe we should also talk about the economic policies, right? So he so by building a lot of infrastructure, he actually managed to re-employ a lot of Germans, which was a very big deal because Germany was devastated by I forgot to mention the Great Depression, right? 1929. Yeah. So yeah, once again, one of the reasons why Hitler got to power was that Germany got hit with these economic crises, right? Like at the end of World War One, there's hyperinflation, and in 1929, the Great Depression really propelled Hitler's popularity. Yeah, so he promised that he would get the unemployed Germans jobs, and so he did. He decreased unemployment by quite a lot, and then he also wanted Germany to become self-sufficient. So that means you don't have to trade with other countries basically, because he wanted to prepare for war. Right? If you know that you're gonna go to war and people are gonna throw like sanctions on you, then you want to be able to support yourself. Financially.
I think we have to mention why the Great Depression hit Germany too, because like it's not
Germany.
Like us.
Oh, Dean, maybe we can do like the cancellation of Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that later. Yeah, so Germany was borrowing loans from the USA for post-war recovery and to pay for the reparations that I mentioned last time.
Okay.
All right, so we are back.
Yeah.
We are having
technical
some
difficulties.
All right, so my question is, you have already talked about like the hyperinflation, right? So obviously Hitler was also kind of like building the infrastructures as well, which would lead to more employment. Obviously, more employment would cause like even more inflation. So I wonder how the government were able to tackle the inflation.
Inflation was associated with World War One, post-World War One, post-World War One Germany. Hyperinflation in the early days of post-World War One Germany was solved by the Weimar government, actually, not Hitler. The Weimar government solved this by introducing a new currency called the Rentenmark. Yeah. So hyperinflation was solved technically before Hitler came to power. Yeah. What Hitler solved was the crisis after the Great Depression. So where was I again? Yeah. Okay. So what did Hitler do for Germany? So he re-employed a lot of people, and he also put a lot of he also banned trade unions. That's the thing he did, and by doing this, he actually helped out with like the big businesses, like the big
self-sufficient as you mentioned.
Yeah. So by doing this, workers were strictly controlled by the Nazi government, and he created like organizations for workers, like that. That's a German work front and stuff like this. Like the German work front, controlled a lot of aspects about stuff in the life of like a worker. For instance, they can't be like fired on the spot or anything, but then they can't go on strike. Their wage is their wage isn't their wage wasn't great. Yeah.
I think we did read a text about something like this. So it's called like censor. I think it's like a short.
I don't know much about economics.
Are you talking about like the censor thing on like the
From Kyle class. I think it's about like censoring like letters from people. So when you try to send letters to other people, I'm not sure. Maybe during that time,
I don't think it's really
Censorship.
the division.
Yes,
Hitler.
yeah, yeah.
Like block information.
There's a lot of censorship. So censorship. Yeah. So Hitler created a ministry, or the Ministry of Propaganda. Yeah. And he had this guy called Joseph Goebbels be the minister. So
It's very famous also.
yeah, so basically the Nazis controlled all media, and they made a lot of propaganda stuff to really brainwash the people. He also held these like big Nuremberg rallies. I think you can find like footage of this on YouTube. And he also introduced the SS, the secret police, the SS and the Gestapo. So the secret police a secret police organization is like a so these kind of government officials, they can arrest you without so they can arrest you for anything. Okay. And Hitler used these units, the SS and the Gestapo, to quell opposition. Yeah. So if for instance you say I hate Hitler in public, then there might be a good chance that someone comes knocking at your door and then drags you to a concentration camp.
And you should stop touching your like forehead because
you should stop touching my forehead.
Anyways, let's move on to the cancellation of Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah. Militarization. Does Bam want to say something about this?
You can continue with it.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the Treaty of Versailles is stuff like Treaty of Versailles, for instance, prevented Germany from having an air force, right? Hitler, yeah. Were you going to say something?
I'm just saying.
Also, the limitation of the navy,
the army,
demilitarized zone,
Rhineland.
Yeah.
So basically, since Hitler wanted to prepare Germany for war, he basically so he went against the Treaty of Versailles openly. Like he created an air force called the Luftwaffe. He beefed up his army. So a lot of more. He introduced conscription as well. Yeah. So conscription is when you basically force young men to join the army. And this actually helped with unemployment. Yeah, because when more people are in the army, then there's less unemployment, right? And it also helped to strengthen the army.
Right. No one.
He also gets soldiers. No. He also got soldiers back into Rhineland.
But no one tried to prevent that. That would be the failure of League of Nations.
Oh yeah, we've got to talk about the League of Nations.
Which leads to another topic also.
Yeah. So basically, Hitler did this stuff like over a very long period of time, and like Britain and France and the League of Nations had many opportunities to intervene and stop stop him from doing all this stuff, but they didn't. Yeah, they didn't stop to intervene. So in a way, it's kind of their fault for World War II. Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't want to like start another war So
Oh yeah,
try to
obviously
try to just not like start new conflict and
yeah, but the method wasn't
try to
successful.
only condemn them, I guess.
It's called appeasement.
Also, the League of Nations didn't intervene at the Japanese invasion of China.
Yeah.
When I talk about the Japanese Empire,
I think we are not done with I think we're not done with Germany yet. I think we also have to mention.
okay.
I think we have to go up to the invasion of Poland. Yeah, so basically after he like beefed up his army and stuff, he started expanding. So in 1938, in 1938, Hitler annexed Austria. This was called Anschluss. So he basically got his troops into Austria and he took Austria. Like, that's it. Then after Austria, he started to invade Czechoslovakia. It's very hard to pronounce.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. So he started to invade Czechoslovakia. Oh my god! And his excuse for the invasion was that there were a lot of ethnic Germans in an area called the Sudetenland. Yeah, Sudetenland was a minor area in Czechoslovakia. And since Britain and France thought that it would be a good idea to let Hitler have what he said he wanted, they decided to sign an agreement with him called the Munich Agreement, and it's known for being a disaster because basically it allowed Hitler to take Sudetenland under the condition that he would promise not to take anything else.
That's an equivalent to the ongoing Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
There are similarities. I think Putin claims that a lot of like Ukraine is a Russian, Ukraine shares the Russian cultural identity and so that's what Hitler said. He said a lot of people in Czechoslovakia were Germans and so they wouldn't resist or oppose the unification. And so basically Chamberlain, the Prime Minister of Britain at the time, and France allowed Hitler to take Sudetenland. And they told him, no, don't take anything else after this. Then they went home. Then I think like 6 months later, Hitler took the rest of Czechoslovakia. So that's the last time appeasement was used because afterwards, in September 1939, after signing an agreement with Stalin of the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union invaded Poland on September 1st.
Before moving to that, which hallmarks the beginning of World War II. Let's move to other countries first.
Other countries first, okay.
Like
World War II,
Japan.
Okay, let's talk about Japan then.
I
think Palm knows more about Japan than I do, so maybe I think Palm should talk about Japan. I don't know that much about Japan.
Okay, short summary, I guess, and you guys can always correct me. So basically, after World War I, right, Germany obviously lost a lot because of the treaties, while Italy also didn't get much from World War I as well.
Okay.
Part of the reason.
No, we didn't mention Italy at all. So
I'll just go briefly.
Yeah.
And US also was not very happy as well because US want to be fair. I guess the US want to be fair. I'm not sure about this though. And then obviously the British Empire got a lot because of their colonies and being the leader of League of Nations, while France also got to suppress Germany. So it's a pretty big win for the British Empire and France, I guess. So
anyways, the US also didn't join the League of Nations.
The US was responsible for not joining the League. Because the Congress had an isolationist stance, I think. Yeah, so they created the league, but the Congress did not want to join the league, so they didn't join. And you mentioned Italy, right? So after after World War One, in the early 1920s, there's this guy called Benito Mussolini, and he was basically the father of what's known as fascism, military dictatorship, and he took over Italy. Yeah, and basically he inspired Hitler to go for the Beaou putsch, which failed. So both Nazism is very closely related to fascism. Hitler was basically like a Mussolini fanboy at the beginning. But then it's interesting, yeah.
Is Mussolini's rise, was it kind of a coup?
It was kind of like a
Italy.
coup. Yes,
Italy still had a monarchy.
Yeah, no, it was a coup. That's why Hitler tried to do a coup. Hitler was like, oh, I also want to do that. So Hitler went for a coup, but it didn't work. So it's interesting how two very similar dictators rose to power differently. One used force and the other used democracy. In fact, the scariest thing about Hitler is that he managed to get to where he did using democracy.
I think like all Mussolini stuff happened, like I think he rose to power in 1924, like to be specific.
What are you referring to?
Like when Mussolini like gained power, I think it was 1924. He like such me.
I think it's before 1924.
Yeah.
From 1922.
Oh, okay.
Because Hitler did the Beaou putsch in 1923.
Oh.
And then Hitler rose to power in 1933. Yeah. So it took Hitler 10 years after his first attempt at like a coup. Okay, Japan. I think Palm should talk about Japan because I don't know much about Japan.
So before World War One, Japan did beat Russia and also occupied the whole Korean peninsula. After the Russo-Japanese War, Japan also got some parts of Sakhalin and a colony in Thailand, China. They did modernize a lot. For example, the introduction of railway and kind of new innovations. So Japan really think they thought that they are the new big power in Asia, and that is kind of an ideology amongst upper class people of Japan too. I guess it's Bushido, right? Kind of related to the
Bushido was
emperor.
The samurai ideology. Bushido was like a code of honor. Yeah, it's like
so they think they should get more lands. Firstly, they invaded Manchuria and China.
I think partly it was because they wanted some resources too, right? Because their resources were like depleted back then.
I think Japan, one of the reasons is that Japan is an island, so there's obviously not a lot of resources there.
Yes.
So one thing that will be like an important factor there is Japan did import around 80% of its oil from the US, I guess. So there, after the US sanction on Japanese capturing Southeast Asia, then the Japanese was kind of mad, I guess. So we'll talk about that soon.
Japan had two reasons for wanting to expand. Firstly, it was forced to expand because it wanted more resources, and it was running out of land. And second of all, it also wanted to expand because it wanted to be considered a world power, wanted to build a strong empire, to be on par with the Western powers, right? So there's both like a physical need to expand and also a psychological need.
Japan did occupy Taiwan, right?
Yeah, I think Taiwan was called something else back then, right? Taiwan had a different name back then. I still call it Taiwan for like simplicity, but I forgot what. Do you know Taiwan had a different name back then?
Taihoku.
No, like the Western name. Western name for Taiwan. Formosa. Yeah, I think it used to be called Formosa. No, anyway, to not confuse.
It used to be like under Dutch and Portuguese occupation.
Yeah.
In
Anyway,
16th century.
Yeah, let's call it Taiwan for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so I'm just gonna talk about some of the dates, about some of the things that Palm mentioned. So the Japanese actually went to war with the Chinese twice. First time was in 1894. That's the first Sino-Japanese War. Okay, that's not the main one. The main one that we usually talk about is the second Sino-Japanese War. Anyway, the Russo-Japanese War was in 1904, ended in 1905 with
before the World War One.
Yeah, that's before World War One. So by the time of World War One, Japan was already considered like a pretty decent world power. Especially after World War One, because Japan was an allied power. Yeah, Japan had.
Speaking of the second Sino-Chinese War, so they first invaded. Sino-Japanese War. They first invaded Manchuria, and it was to occupy Korea.
Yeah. So Manchuria was a region in eastern China, eastern mainland China. Yeah.
They set up a puppet state called like Manchukuo.
Yeah, Manchukuo or something like that. Yeah. So they invaded Manchuria for like, first of all, resources. Second of all, they also moved some of its. Second of all, they also moved some Japanese people into Manchuria because they were running out of space, right?
Puyi was also the ruler of Manchukuo.
Yeah. So okay, so invasion of Manchuria, and then second Sino-Japanese War. Yeah, so I think this was after what's called the Marco Polo Bridge incident. It's like it's used by Japan as as an excuse for the invasion of the further invasion of China. Yeah, and so
Nanjing Massacre.
Nanjing Massacre. You also might want to mention that the rape of Nanking. So when we talk about World War II, we usually talk a lot about like Holocaust and the atrocities committed by Nazi Germany, and sometimes we forget about Japan. Japan committed a lot of atrocities in China. The most infamous one was the rape of Nanking. Very horrific period of time for the Chinese city of Nanking. Yeah, so I don't want to go in detail because it's so horrific. But anyway, it's terrible, and nowadays I think they're covering it up. Yeah.
By the way, China was also in a civil war.
Oh yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny because they were in a civil war.
A lot of cliques and the communists and Kuomintang.
Yeah, it's Kuomintang and the Communist Party, right?
Right.
It's very funny because they were in a civil war and the Japan attacked and they had to team up to fight against Japan. And after World War II ended, they started fighting each other again. Eventually, Kuomintang.
You know what? U.S. also supported the Kuomintang in the war.
Yeah.
Intending to fight against Japan, but eventually Kuomintang used those weapons to fight against the communists.
Yeah, because USA wanted to stop the spread of communism, right?
No.
No.
They actually intend to give support to fight against Japan.
Oh, back then, yeah. the fall of China to communism in like 1949 was a big hit on US though, but that's post World War II, so maybe we shouldn't talk about that just yet.
Let's
Okay,
go.
so yeah. So let's go. Do we go back to Europe?
Yeah.
It's basically
Let's
setting
go
up the
to
scene
maybe the Britain.
for Britain. I don't have my. Oh, okay, so Britain and France were one of the reasons why they didn't want to intervene was because they didn't want another war. Their economy, neither of their economy was great actually, because you know even they suffered from World War One a lot as well, especially France and Britain. So both of these countries wanted to keep the armies like, intact. They did not want to risk going to war again. So you can't really blame them for appeasement. They didn't want to join another war, and they thought that using appeasement would be an effective method of preventing war. It was not. But then again, I suppose the intentions weren't ill. Anyway, yeah, so that's Britain and France basically. So I think we go right away. Do we jump straight away to Poland?
Yeah, let's just talk about a political change within Britain. Like they allow women's suffrage.
I mentioned a bit about. I talked a bit about that last episode. I don't think that's very relevant to World War II though. Like it's not necessarily relevant.
By the way, I would say that the Labour Party took the power and they had a policy to spend more on solving the economic crisis rather than demilitarization.
Yeah, they didn't want to join another war. It's you said militarization, right? Yeah. But then again, yeah. So because after World War One, everyone was sick of war except for Hitler. So that's why Britain and France tried not to like intervene. So that's why they used appeasement. They tried to stay as far away from having to directly intervene militarily as possible.
Also, the British and the French got more power in the Middle East because of the fall of Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
I think the British Empire got like power in the rest of the world, though. I mean, including Southeast Asia as well, and France also got a lot of power in Southeast Asia as well.
Yes, but that's before the World War One actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
they still like control the area, right? So
yeah, they still control Britain still had a massive empire. Okay. So do we go ahead? Do we jump straight to September 1st, 1939?
Did we talk about the US?
Well, a bit. The US didn't do that much though until
like their isolation.
I did mention it. Yeah. So the US was responsible for creating the League of Nations and was also responsible for not joining the League of Nations, which was kind of silly. And basically, the US not joining the League of Nations really impaired the league because the US was very powerful, right? The US economy was probably the best after World War One. And by not joining the league did not have as strong of a leverage that it would have in stopping conflicts, right?
Why did the US didn't join?
Because the public the Congress and the public, they did not want to be involved in anything in Europe. The US had an isolationist policy. They did not want to get involved in some issue, in some conflict, right? Yeah, so they tried and stay away from it until
basically there was no one really in control of the League of Nations, because
you can say
they
precisely.
can tackle like small conflicts, but obviously it's if it's like Hitler or bigger conflicts, then they have no military or like weapons to fight. I guess.
There were people in control of the League of Nations, but it's a very ineffective command structure. Do you see how Russia in the UN just now? Do you remember? You see how the Russian representative vetoed the resolution to condemn Russia? Right, Bam? Am I correct? That happened, right? Am I confusing something with an earlier historical event? Can I get confirmation from Bam? Right, earlier during Ukraine, because I think Russia in the Security Council vetoed against the decision to condemn Russia. Am I right? I'm gonna sound so stupid if I'm gonna sound so stupid if I confuse this with some like earlier event. Anyway, you know what veto power is?
Yes.
You guys know what veto power is, right? So basically, the League of Nations Council required like a very big majority to pass something. Second of all, I think everyone in the what's it called again? I forgot the word. That's like a permanent. The permanent members. I think it also required unanimous agreement from the permanent member, the 5 permanent members. Yeah. Oh wait, no, not 5. I think the council had veto power. So basically, if someone did not want something, then they could just say, yeah, okay. I just looked at my textbook. Unanimous voting gave the permanent members of the council the power of veto. Yeah, so 2/3 majority in the assembly. So 2/3 of 67% of everyone had to agree, and then everyone in the council had to agree in order to do something. So if someone didn't want something to be done, then they just say no, and then nothing gets done. Nothing got done.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of hard to make some decisions.
Yeah, so it's hard to do anything substantial, and yeah, so in a way, nobody was really like in charge of the league enough to like steer it in some like substantial or significant direction to achieve world peace. Okay, so Poland.
Let's go to the 1st September 1939.
All right, 1939. So we haven't actually used maps yet. So can someone show a map of 1939 pre-World War II Europe? Yeah, because I think a lot of people today might not know what where Czechoslovakia is. Czechoslovakia was like it's a region that today became Czech Republic, and what else was in it?
Slovakia.
Oh yeah, of course it's Czechoslovakia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Okay, get them. I don't want to mess the recording.
When I edited after finishing the record, or you want to share screen now?
Share it now, please. Yeah, so I can kind of keep track. I get so confused by like I still can't remember some of the European countries. I like wait, does this one exist? At which point in history did this? What was this a country?
Can you maybe like share the screen?
I have already shared.
So Slovakia is still a country. It's in. I think that's enough. Yeah. So can you point to like? Oh my God. Until. So the dark.
Is this too small?
No, a bit. You zoom.
Just keep talking. I'll be right back.
I think the dark orange is like 1939. Yeah. Anyway, so basically Germany wanted to expand eastward. You remember what I said about Lebensraum, right? Germany wanted more land, and so it wanted to expand eastwards towards Russia, and so Poland's the final step before before Russia. And since Germany knew that after invading Poland, Britain and France would declare war, Germany did not want to fight a war on two fronts. Germany did not want to fight Russia and Britain and France at the same time. So that's why they signed an agreement with Stalin.
Anyways, Dean, whom has sent the picture to resources channel.
Yeah. So if you look here, oh my God, this
Maybe
is so
in
funny.
you can put it after.
Okay, so this
Okay,
map,
wait,
I think this map doesn't show Austria and Czechoslovakia. So it just so basically Germany, like you see there. This isn't the best map for this because it doesn't show the different countries that Germany occupied. Yeah, so basically Poland was between basically Poland was west of Russia, so it's the buffer zone between Germany and the Soviet Union. So naturally Germany wanted Poland, but it also didn't want to fight against Russia right away. Still can't see
This is
anything.
good. My new image.
The new map.
The new map.
Wait, I think another reason why Germany wanted to invade Poland was that, if I remember correctly, there's like a little bit of territory that separates like to Germany.
Yep. It's called the Polish corridor. So Germany was separated into like there's one tiny chunk of Germany stuck in the middle of Poland. Yeah. So Germany signed an agreement with the Soviet Union, promising that they won't attack each other and basically stuff like that. Yeah. And then on September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland from the west. The Soviet Union invaded Poland from the east, and Britain and France declared war.
Signed the agreement though.
The Soviet Union signed the agreement because Stalin kind of knew that eventually Hitler would attack the Soviet Union, because Hitler was inherently anti-communist. Hitler hated communists. Hitler hated Hitler hated like Slavic people. Hitler hated Eastern Europeans and stuff like that. So that's why the agreement between them was quite shocking, because it's such an unlikely pairing. So I think so Stalin probably knew that Hitler would invade the Soviet Union anyway. So why not we also invade Poland? So to give ourselves some buffer zone, so Germany can't just like walk into the Soviet Union anytime.
And on the 3rd of September 1939, the UK and France declared war on Germany.
Yeah, so this is considered to be the beginning of World War II. Yep. It's September 1st. So I guess we talk about war in Europe then, like all the way to the end.
You want to talk something about the battles in Poland?
I'm going to talk a bit about the battle. In Poland. First of all, I don't know that much, and second of all, I think we might not have time to go into detail about Poland. Poland wasn't it's not that significant. Yeah.
Okay, so the war, I think Germany captured the whole Poland within 1 month, I guess.
Yeah, because it's like they were getting crushed by two superpowers. It stood very little chance.
And the next countries Hitler attacked was the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah. Hitler took those for, I think, like resources. And this marked the beginning of a period called the Phony War. So not much happened in like the early months, but then after that it picked up. Actually, now that we mentioned Poland, I guess it's inevitable that we talk about the Holocaust for a bit, just a bit. So Hitler hated the Jews, or at least claimed to hate the Jews, and so the Nazis implemented increasingly cruel policies against the Jewish people, and this rose from like anti-Semitism up to like a full-scale genocide. And basically, in 1941, they started. They ordered for the elimination of all Jews in Europe, and so they had these concentration camps throughout Nazi-occupied Europe, particularly in Poland. Poland was very hard hit by the Holocaust, especially the Jewish population. They first put the Jews in ghettos, and then after that they moved them to concentration camps, and
There's a famous camp called Auschwitz.
Yep, there were many famous camps in Poland. I think Treblinka, Auschwitz. What else?
Buna. I think.
Where was Krakow? Krakow's also in Poland.
Yes.
Yeah, Krakow, Auschwitz, Treblinka, stuff like that. Yeah. So a lot of these were death camps. So basically, they send people there just to die.
Oh, Buna is also a Monowitz camp.
Yeah, I'm not sure about like the specific names of the camps. I do know the more famous ones, the more notorious ones. Yeah. So all in all, after the war, I think 6 million Jews died.
I think like there are many like literatures around the Holocaust too. Like for example, this is one. It's called Night by Elie Wiesel. If you guys can find and read about it too.
Yeah, the Holocaust was quite a massive event and probably one of the darkest reminders, of World War II.
Anyways, let's go to invasion of Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, so Hitler successfully took Scandinavian countries like I think Sweden and Norway. I'm actually not sure about this.
I think before that, Norway. Hitler wanted to take Norway by dealing with nationalistic party leaders in Norway, but they didn't gain popularity, so Hitler had to attack Norway himself. And then
no, Sweden wasn't. Wait, hang on, let me see. Sweden wasn't really invaded by Germany, right? I think it's Norway. Yeah, it's Norway. Sweden. I think Sweden was more. Right? Am I correct? Yeah, apparently it's Norway that's like occupied by Germany. Sweden was neutral in World War II. Yeah, Sweden was neutral.
Yes.
Norway was occupied by Germany, and Finland was in a war with the Soviet Union actually for a while called the.
Yes.
Yeah.
So probably the main reason why Hitler tried to occupy Scandinavia was because first the invasion of Finland by the Soviet Union, and actually it's because they want to take control of the North Sea. The North Sea.
Yeah.
If the British took that, they will have no access to the sea.
So far, it's still not directly involving Britain and France. So that changed in 1940 with the Battle of France.
So I haven't finished about this
you're not
this
finished?
Scandinavians.
Okay.
So lastly, the war began, and then Hitler, the capital of Norway. There was a fight for quite a bit, 6 months, but eventually the British and the Allies, their forces.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it?
You can talk about France next.
Okay. Yeah. So basically after that, in 1940, in the middle of 1940, Germany attacked France in a way that's quite similar to World War One, actually. So they attacked through Belgium and the Netherlands.
I think there are two sides of the army, right? The first one was a trick to distract.
Yeah. So it seemed like they were going for like a similar strategy to World War One, but they had a different trick in the sleeve. So Britain and France didn't think that the Germans would directly attack France through the an area known as the Ardennes forest. They thought it's very France thought that it's naturally impenetrable, so they didn't really focus any attention to that area. However, Hitler attacked through the Ardennes. This basically surrounded it. So Britain and France would be here, right, fighting the fake German attack at like the northeastern part here, and then Hitler would send the main army down through the Ardennes and then surround the British and the French forces. And this was catastrophic for the Allies because nobody expected this. Hitler managed to do this so quickly that it's known today as Blitzkrieg or lightning warfare. And
it was like within 1 month, right?
Yeah. So the surrounded troops had to be evacuated through Dunkirk. It's a very famous movie about that. Had to be evacuated at Dunkirk back to
Operation Dynamo, right?
Yeah, Dunkirk. So they basically rescued some soldiers from the port of Dunkirk, and then back to England, and France lost the war.
Actually, all French just left Paris, right? So and they wanted to preserve the architecture in the cities.
I'm not sure about that. The architecture, there's a very famous picture. There's a very famous photo of Hitler posing in front of the Eiffel Tower. You might have seen it. Anyway, I'm not sure about the attitude toward architecture. But so France lost the war.
Yeah, because the Versailles Palace, the Eiffel Tower, and the Champs-Élysées were not destroyed.
I suppose so. I suppose that I guess that might have been intentional, or maybe that was intentional. Anyway, so basically France lost the war just like that, and so now it's just Britain. And Britain almost
Vichy France government too.
Yeah, so Hitler divided France into two parts. First part is occupied France. So basically France had lost the war. Hitler also made a puppet state called Vichy France. So it's basically the same thing, but it just seems like a different country that joined the Axis.
Literally, Italy also attacked France to the south.
Yeah, and then after this, Italy also declared war on England, on Britain. Yeah. So now, the Axis powers try to make it seem as as bad. They try to make it. They try to make the situation look as bad for Britain as possible, to force Britain to surrender. But Britain almost surrendered actually until this guy came along. This guy is called Winston Churchill. Yeah, and he rallied the public against surrendering, and he held on. And so Hitler could not directly invade Britain because Britain had a very strong navy. So
let's go to Operation Sea Lion.
I mean, let's
Operations,
finish
yeah.
this sentence.
Sorry, what?
I think you should finish your sentence.
I just finished my sentence. Oh, I was just going to talk about the Battle of Britain a bit. It's quite a unique one. Yeah. So Germany wanted to invade Britain by sea, right? But they couldn't do that right away. So they started bombing Britain. This series of bombings was called the Battle of Britain, and initially it was meant to bomb the RAF bases, the Royal Air Force bases. Okay, so basically it was meant to destroy the British Royal Air Force. However, Hitler later decided to start bombing civilian targets instead. Start bombing cities. Okay. This actually backfired. This was a bad decision. It's the decision that caused Hitler the loss of the Battle of Britain potentially, because by doing so, Hitler thought that the British would surrender, the British would give up, but the British did not give up. That's the point. Hitler furiously bombed like London, furiously bombed like all the British cities, but the British still, held their ground, and by bombing the cities instead of the RAF bases, this gave the RAF time to recover. And at the end of the Battle of Britain, the RAF successfully destroyed a big part of the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, and so basically Hitler had no hope of invading Britain anymore, because
I think the main reason for German's defeat, what's it? The British had a radar, right? But German didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think so. I'm not sure about the
Germany only had a radar for sea operation, naval operation.
Yeah, but British morale, though, the British people were very determined not to lose, and so they held out for a very long time. And so the Battle of Britain was a victory for the British, and so this was very important because had Britain lost and had Britain been occupied by Germany, then maybe Germany would have won World War II, because it would be impossible for the United States to anchor their troops in Britain and then attack Western Europe from there. So you can definitely argue that the British victory in the Battle of Britain gave the USA the chance to come to the rescue, basically. And so that's the survival of Britain in 1940 was a big event in World War II. Okay, so but then that basically concluded the Western Front for the next 4 years.
So next so you want to talk next about the naval operation in the Atlantic, or the invasion of Russia, the invasion of Soviet Union.
I don't know much about naval operations in the Atlantic. I think did Hitler do a blockade of Britain?
Like there was a kind of wolf pack attack to destroy.
1919. Yeah.
Like British battleships.
Yeah. No, I think Germany was blockaded. Anyway, I don't know much about Atlantic operations, but I suppose we talk about Operation Barbarossa right away.
For the Bismarck, right? Oh no,
Sorry,
no.
Operation
For
Barbarossa
the
for Soviet Union.
Soviet Union.
Yeah. So in 1941, Hitler decided that nothing more could be done on the Western Front, and so Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. And Hitler made a lot of progress initially, actually, and
and Soviet Union also got kicked out of the League of Nations by British Empire and France as well. I think.
Sorry, what?
I mean, Soviet Union also got kicked by the British Empire and France, so they were kind of like defined on the side of. They were not like exactly on the side of allies or Axis, but obviously because they are not like defined, Germany decided to attack the Soviet Union because obviously it could be like there could be a potential opponent against. So this caused the Soviet Union to fully join the Allies.
Well, no, the Soviet Union was forced to join the Allies since they were fighting against Germany, right? They were fighting against a common. They were fighting against a common enemy. Yeah. So in a way, the Soviet Union had to join the Allies to unite the fighting against Germany.
It's kind of like if my enemy is my friend, the same thing as like as we mentioned in World War I episode, right?
Sorry?
It's kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
You can say so, but it's not an easy relationship because the Allies hated communism. Most of the Allies hated communism, and the Soviet Union was communist. It's a necessary wartime alliance, I'd say. Anyway, so Germany invaded the Soviet Union, and Germany was almost at Moscow, I think, actually. Germany almost got to Moscow, I think, when...
Excuse me, there are like three armies, right, for the Nazi.
I did not. I'm not sure. Yeah, but Germany made a lot of progress until winter, I think. So
this was similar to Napoleon, right?
It was similar to Napoleon. It was similar to Napoleon, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad yet. It's gonna get bad after this. So it's winter, and
there are like three armies. The first one is Army Group North. They attack Leningrad, and the second one is Army Group Center. They attack like Minsk, which is now the capital of Belarus, and Moscow. And the south one, they try to attack Ukraine, Kiev, and the Caucasus, which is an abundance of oil and coal mining resources.
So basically afterwards, after winter, Hitler continued. Hitler resumed with the invasion. This time he focused on the city of Stalingrad. Hitler wanted to capture Stalingrad, and so what am I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Yeah. Anyway, so Hitler targeted Stalingrad, but then I think he didn't send enough. He only sent the 6th Army into Stalingrad, I think. I think he wanted the South Army to focus on the Caucasus, right? So I think he split them up and sent the 6th Army into Stalingrad alone. And so fighting in Stalingrad was very fierce because the Soviet Union did not want to lose Stalingrad. Stalingrad had Stalin's name. That's one of the reasons, I think. It's one of the reasons. Stalin did not want Hitler to take Stalingrad because Stalingrad as a city bore it had Stalin's name on it. So the Soviet Union defended fiercely, and fighting was very vicious in Stalingrad. The deadliest battle of World War II, I think, one of the deadliest battles of all time, actually. And after a long while, it got to winter again. Yeah, I think this was 1942 already. Battle of Stalingrad. Yep, 1942 already. And so winter came, and Hitler refused to withdraw. I think, yeah, I mean, he was very stubborn about many of his decisions, which eventually led to Germany's downfall.
I think because Hitler predicted that Stalin would have to use some of the forces to defend on the eastern side.
Hitler was kind of He also grossly underrated the Russians. Hitler was kind of stupid in that he believed that the Russians were incompetent. His notion of his idea of Aryan superiority really went over the board here. He really underestimated the Russians. He thought they wouldn't put up a fight. They did, and yeah.
I think another thing is after that Hitler didn't send enough reinforcement and resources for the army.
Yes, Hitler was very stubborn. He thought he basically thought he would win, and he refused to listen to his generals, and by doing so he lost the Battle of Stalingrad. Eventually, winter came. The Soviets successfully surrounded Stalingrad, and the army starved and froze to death basically. So eventually they had to surrender, and this was potentially the most decisive, the most important battle of World War II.
Also,
after Stalingrad, the tide turned against Germany.
What about the siege of Leningrad or
the siege of Leningrad? It's very bloody.
St. Petersburg.
Siege of Leningrad. Leningrad today is St. Petersburg, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it was very bloody. It's a very significant battle for sure, but I wouldn't call it as decisive as the Battle of Stalingrad. Yeah, but it's extremely bloody. Conditions for the Russians in Stalingrad were terrible for the Russians, but eventually the Germans were forced to retreat. The siege lasted for so long that by the time the siege of Leningrad lasted for so long that by the time of Stalingrad, it was still going on,
Mm-hmm.
So when Germany had to retreat, the siege had to end. So it was extremely bloody. The Eastern Front in World War II was generally extremely bloody. Let's go to the Battle of Stalingrad. Stalingrad casualties. Stalingrad deaths. So in the Battle of Stalingrad alone, 800,000 casualties were suffered by the Nazis, and let's look at the Soviets. Okay, the Soviets lost 1 million, over 1,100,000, 1.1 million. Yeah, the Soviets lost 1.1 million men. The Axis lost about 900,000. So basically 2 million casualties. It's horrible. Yeah. The Soviet Union lost so many people in World War II. There's a very good video on YouTube that actually, I think, demonstrates.
Oversimplified.
Yeah. No, not oversimplified. It's a video that represented the deaths in World War II, I think. and you could see and you can see how the Soviets lost. The Soviet Union lost so many people compared to the other countries, but they did successfully repel the German forces. And so basically afterwards they started pushing pushing back. So they started pushing Germany out of Russia, out of Eastern Europe, and back into Germany. Pushing Germany back into Germany. Anyway, and then the Western Front, something happened. The D-Day invasion, Normandy landings. So the USA joined the war in 1941 due to Pearl Harbor. I guess we can talk about that later.
Before going to that, let's move to the Pacific Front.
Oh, you want to do Japan first and then D-Day? Okay. So, I think Palm can talk about the Pacific Front. So I think Palm knows more about this. I think we start at Pearl Harbor and maybe the invasion of Southeast Asia.
So actually, Japan was supplied by the US for oil and other resources, but it was a bad decision to declare war on the US. Right, Dean?
But Japan.
Well, Japan wanted.
US has nuclear weapons.
Sorry?
Japan didn't know that the US has nuclear weapons.
No, the US didn't have nuclear weapons. The USA didn't have nuclear weapons back then.
I mean, like
in fact, the Manhattan.
It's not a great idea that Japan declared war on the US, but obviously no one knew that the US had nuclear weapons.
No, the US did not. The US did not have nuclear weapons back
it's
in 1941.
Personally, I think it's a bad decision because it's almost impossible to capture the whole US territory in America.
No, Japan. The main reason for the attack on Pearl Harbor was Japan wanted to expand in the Pacific, but Japan did not want to go against the US fleet, right? So Japan bombed Pearl Harbor to incapacitate the US Navy. Okay, but the US managed to recover very quickly.
I don't think bomb like the repair yards in Pearl Harbor too.
Yeah. So that's one. Yeah, that's part of the reason why the US managed to recover after the attack on Pearl Harbor and get back into the action quite quickly. Anyway, Japan did succeed to an extent with Pearl Harbor because immediately after Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded Southeast Asia. This is where we talk about Thailand. I think Palm should talk about Thailand. So I don't miss up the key states again.
For the attack of Pearl Harbor, I think it was on the 7th of December.
1941, yeah.
And
okay, go ahead.
I think that some of the US battleships and destroyers, namely the one called Arizona, California, and Nevada, were destroyed.
Okay.
But
I think
the US forces didn't before that didn't catch like the radar or the Japan's Air Force, right?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe I think you should talk about the significance of Pearl Harbor. Is that it allowed Japan to take Southeast Asia? Yeah.
I can talk about this. I have actually studied about this, but I have already forgot of them. So after bombing. Okay. What?
Many historians have pointed out that the fact that the US didn't catch the sign of Japan's attack it's quite a leverage for the US because if they move their force to Depot Harbor, like after ships, they would be destroyed.
Your mic is dead. Okay, your mic is back. Your mic died for a second there.
Right. So OSCE, as Dean shared earlier, after bombing Pearl Harbor in 1941, the Japan proceeded to invade Malaya and Philippines, while being granted Thai territory to prepare for a military campaign against Burma. So basically, Japan was multitasking, I guess. So basically, they invade like the south of Southeast Asia, and also targeting Burma as well, which is like the British colony. And obviously, you guys can stop me at any time because so under People's Government, Thailand also declare war against the Allied powers, but the US viewed this as a non-willing declaration overseas, while the British later want Thailand to compensate for the reparation payments because obviously the British didn't didn't believe what the Thai say like this.
I guess are you going to talk about Japanese invasion of Thailand next?
You can. The
Maybe Japan.
very short.
I guess Japan stormed at some beaches in Thailand, like Beaou in สมุทรปราการนครศรีธรรมราชสงขลา and Chumpon. At first, they faced some resistance from soldiers and police and the police and maybe ยุวชนทหาร do some of you know that, but eventually people decided to befriend Japan and declare the Allies.
Yeah, you can. I guess you could. I guess you could argue that this was for the best. I guess I don't know because Japan wanted to take Thailand anyway. So if we resisted, then it could have led to very devastating combat in the country. But anyway, yeah. So Japan. So Thailand became an ally of Japan very quickly, and with that, Japan also attacked Malaya, Singapore. Because
you guys think that people was 100% willing to declare war on the Allies?
I don't think so. I don't think so because we were neutral before that. But
Okay.
I guess there was some
maybe. Okay, you can continue.
I was going to say that perhaps there were some advantages to maybe people saw some of the boons of the Japanese invasion. I think people felt that Japan as an Asian power would help prevent like excessive Western influence.
Oh, before that, I think Japan captured the whole Indochina without
that's before. But that's
without any fights because they negotiated with Chief France.
I think there was a fight. I mean, I'll try to say this. Overseas, I think Japan kind of easily captured like France colony, I guess, because obviously France has like a puppet government from the German, so obviously they kind of help Japanese invasion on Southeast Asia, I guess. And then
Yes.
so after invading like the Malaya, the Japanese pretty much took over the entire Southeast Asia in less than 6 months, which is very fast considering that they also demolishing the British Royal Navy as well,
Yeah.
which was very strong at that time, probably the strongest navy in the world.
But no, but we can. But Britain was focused on the Western Front, though we can argue that because Singapore was also a very strong, a very fortified British colony, but then Singapore still lost. So I guess we can argue that Britain was more focused on the West, and so that's why part of the reason why many of these colonies were easily captured. Yeah, and the main reason that Japan invaded Southeast Asia was for Malaya, because Malaya had a lot of resources. Malaya refers to like the area like Malaysia, Indonesia, around that region. Yeah.
Oh, maybe
So,
Poom can
like,
talk about that.
the American and the Australian troops, like around mid 1942, quickly like took the area back though. So basically, the
Japan,
Japanese
Japan didn't take it
was
first.
holding the area for 3 years.
Yeah,
Do you
Japan.
think that's very significant or just like not much?
It's the impressive thing is how quickly they took it, but Japan wasn't very. I wouldn't say Japan was strong per se. Japan was very fast, but like, but once the U.S. fought back, Japan really took a lot of hits, took a lot of blows. Yeah, I say the most impressive thing is how quickly they managed to capture Southeast Asia, but like they perhaps they weren't the best at defending it, I'd say.
I think they tried to invade like into India, so but
Yeah,
obviously they couldn't do that because the British was capturing India at that time.
yeah.
So
India was a British
basically,
colony.
the British fought back and kind of like get the Burma back, I guess.
Okay, so
I think there's also a battle in what do you call Chai Yai or Xiang Tong?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And and Thailand got areas that was taken by Burma and the British back. Call it Saharat Thai Derm.
I have no idea. Okay, so then maybe let's move back to Germany now.
Oh,
Should we?
Also there were bombings in Thailand also.
Yeah, bombings in Thailand by the Allies. Yep. Because they, of course, since Thailand was it was an Axis country, right? Yeah. So they bombed us basically. But it wasn't anything as like deadly as like the bombings of Britain or the bombings of Dresden, though. Those were a lot more intense.
I think one railway bridge was bombed in Uttaradit or Phra, and then
I'm not sure about the specifics for Thailand.
Parliament at that time was bombed.
Oh yeah, Thailand forgot Seri Thai. Got to talk about
Seri Thai.
The Free Thai movement.
Resistances.
Yeah.
Who led the
3D
movement
Phnom
again? And I
Kwong
think we should
Apai
talk
Wong.
about
Seri Pramod. Seri Pramod.
How about Kwong Apai Wong?
the truth in like in the US as well. I don't know how to say that.
The Russian audience
Mom Rashwong. I would say Mom Rashwong. Seri Pramod.
Wait, Kwong Apai Wong was also in Seri Thai, right? Kwong Apai Wong.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
He was like the ambassador, right? I figure out the word ambassador now. So
Delegation.
basically, like the government wanted to announce a war against the US, but obviously the ambassador in the US stopped that and called it an unlawful action. That kind of like void of the democracy and the constitution.
I guess so.
So it's not like an official war, and obviously we still had to pay for like the reconstruction cost, but obviously the US already helped us in like talking with the British.
Basically, there are Seri Thai in Thailand, led by like Preeti Phanom Yong or Pong Aphaiwong, and then Seri Thai in the US, led by that Grand Ambassador called Hmom Rachawong Seni Pramod, and Seri Thai in the UK, led by Prince Suphasawat Wongsanit. And
Thai
they
played
were
a
doing
role.
some negotiations.
Yeah.
Did Thai like send army to other countries? I don't think so. Right?
Did they? I forgot.
I think we just like fought in our country against like the. I'm not sure if we.
No,
really
yeah,
fought.
I don't think Thailand like fought in a lot of major stuff.
I think we could talk about the train as well in Kanchanaburi, right?
Oh yeah.
Something
The train
something I
to
would like
like
to point out, like the Seri Thai sent the soldiers to train in Sri Lanka, which is then colonized by the British.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was like true.
I think we can quickly talk about the train in Kanchanaburi. I'm not sure where exactly it is, and then we can move back to Germany.
It's in Western Thailand.
Because it's like
Thai Burma Railway. I don't think we're gonna have time to move to
Mhm.
Germany. I think we have to end it now because it's already 2 hours. I mean, like, let's talk about the. I guess we can talk about the railway and then we can talk about the rest next episode.
I think we can just wrap things up here. I mean, maybe
let's do the railway. Let's do now that we're.
Let's do the
now that we
railway.
just-
Yeah, let's do
now that
the
we-
edit now
now that
because
we just
the
go
current
off.
time for like the second part. The second part is
Yeah.
We have time until 5:30 actually.
I don't think I'm gonna. It's 3.5. I can't. I don't think I can talk for another hour and a half.
it's okay.
without-
You can split this into
without-
two or like
that's-
record second part like sometimes.
Okay, the Thai Burma Railway.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they built a railway because they wanted to ease
Wait,
the transport of
Send the troops to
yeah
to the west.
Burma. Yeah. They wanted to connect.
So they tried to send the troops to Burma, and they tried to build a railway to the south as well, like to Malaya or something.
Yeah, they tried to build a
Or
railway like connecting, right?
To the south as well.
The south. I'm not sure how.
Like Malaya.
I'm not sure how
something.
far. I'm not sure how far it went, but it wasn't completed. It wasn't
I think
completed.
it is completed now though.
It was completed afterwards. Okay.
I'm not sure. Do Palms do you have any knowledge on this? On like
Sure.
the train?
I realized that the Japanese soldiers were using bicycles to travel to the south side of Malaya.
Did you say bicycle?
Yeah. Ajahn,
I
think
have
Ajahn
never heard
Richard,
about using bicycle
Ajahn
before.
Richard have talked about that.
Have you heard about like any country that used like bicycle in this war?
Yes, Ajahn Richard told me in
Richard.
2020.
Wait, let's go back.
Usually,
Let's go back to like the topics first, like the Gestapo.
okay.
They were,
Why we can like talk about it like maybe like a little bit in the end. I think the reason why it was like quite infamous for Thai people is that they used like prisoners and to like construct the railways, and the working condition was really harsh, and there were many like deaths related a lot of time because like it was deeply connected into like forests and stuff too, like dense forests and stuff too. And the climate outside was very moist. There were a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of disease in the construction.
yeah, obviously in Thailand, there were like a lot of, in the forest, there were some diseases as well.
Mhm.
Like
I think
malaria
there's a story also that like a Thai monk gave cigarettes to the prisoners who were building the train, and the Japanese soldier just punched him.
So let's get back to the topic.
When I get to like the Battle of Midway, or
I was thinking of saving Midway for next time because that would be part of defeat of Japan already.
I think
Midway
we
was-
can stop here and
Yeah,
resuming this.
I think we
next
can
time.
stop here. Otherwise, it will get too long. So we're gonna have to talk about like Germany and then Japan as well.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's wrap things up. Maybe give some short summary and say goodbye.
Maybe the host should do the summary.
I mean, you should do the summary.
Well, we talked about how Hitler rose to power in Germany, how Hitler managed to take over Europe very quickly, how Hitler failed to defeat the Soviet Union. We also talked about why Japan wanted to expand and how Japan managed to take the Southeast Asia very quickly. And so that's it for now. I think next time we're gonna talk about how the Allies won the war.
and obviously the aftermath of the war.
A bit on that.
Some introductions and Cold War.
Yeah.
So
Goodbye for now.
let's say goodbye.
Okay.
That's it for
Work.
this episode. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.